Hi, this is Scott from Spectre Gear, and today we're out at the range on a fairly windy day, so I hope that the wind on the microphone doesn't become too distracting. But the purposes of today's video is to talk a little bit about, or rather follow up on what I talked about on the tabletop discussion I did on the Ruger SP101. Now, in that video, I discussed that the Ruger SP101 is one of the few snub noses that can be effectively used with full power 357 Magnum ammunition. There are lighter snub noses that can also shoot 357, but the recoil impulse is such that, at least for me, and I'm a fairly experienced revolver shooter, I can't keep my shot-to-shot recovery times to an acceptable minimum given the weight of the gun. The SP101 being all steel and a little bit ever so slightly larger than your typical J-frame, and again also heavier by about 10 ounces. There's enough weight and enough mass in that gun that you can effectively shoot 357 Magnum. But the point I want to make is it is on the bare, ragged edge of acceptable shot-to-shot recovery times. So what I wanted to do is a little bit of a shooting demonstration to show you the difference in recoil impulses. Because while I recommend you always carry the largest round that you possibly can, or the most powerful round you possibly can, there's also the standard that if your shot-to-shot recovery times with that round are not minimal enough, you need to download to a lesser powered round, because that's important. Yes, you can hit the guy with one round, but if that doesn't do the job and you need follow-up rounds, you need to be able to control that gun effectively enough to effectively land rapid follow-on hits. And again, if your gun is tearing your hand up and damn near flying out of your hand, that's going to be a little bit hard to do. So what we're going to do for today is, let me go ahead and show you one of the rounds here. The first cylinder that I'm going to fire is going to be 158 grain plus P 38 special lead semi-wad cutter hollow points. This is typically referred to as the FBI load, or it's not the Secret Service load. They used a 110 grain round, but the Chicago load, it's been around a long, long time. Now, I'm not necessarily saying this is the most effective round out of a snub nose, but I had somebody load up ammunition for me, and I told them I wanted it plus P. I wanted it to mirror the results of what I typically shoot. Of course, if I'm going to recommend a snub nose round, it's probably going to be the Spear 135 grain short barrel load. But these rounds still get the job done surprisingly well, but there are more effective rounds. But the idea being it's plus P38. So it's going to have a lower recoil impulse than a 357 Magnum, but it's going to be higher on the spectrum than a typical standard pressure load would be. The next round that I'm going to fire when I reload is one the Remington 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point 357 Magnum round. This one has a stopping power reputation that dates all the way back to the 70s and 80s when this thing was a preeminent man stopper in terms of handguns. So we're going to go ahead and fire that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference. It's not going to be a strict shooting demonstration. I'm going to fire a couple rounds. I'm going to sort of let you know what it feels like and what I'm experiencing. And again, keep in mind, I got a big hand. I'm a fairly large guy, and I've been shooting revolvers since 1981. So I'm not exactly new to this, and if I'm having any difficulties, I'm going to let you know, because you might have the same difficulties. So let's try the 38+P first. Go ahead and verify loaded. Just easy peasy. I can stack the rounds right on top of each other. I have great control of the weapon throughout, and I'm able to stack those shots. Like I say, those hammers are boom, 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 boom. So very controllable, very, very controllable. So let's try the 357 Magnum now. And I'm going to do 2 more cylinders, and I'll be reloading out of speed loaders from that point forward. Let's get the last 2 loaded in. Now again, this is the 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point 357 Magnum full power rounds. Now, one question that does come up a lot is, out of a really short barrel, you're going to lose a lot of velocity and you're going to put out a lot of flash. Yes, you are. It's going to have a lot less velocity than you would out of a 4-inch or 6-inch barrel gun. But out of a 2 1/4 inch barrel, it's still clocking way faster than any 38+P round is going to do. So yes, it's not as effective as it would be out of a longer barrel gun, but it's still one hell of a lot more effective than a typical 38+P would be. But again, the question is the recoil impulse so much that it's going to be a no-go as far as shooting? So I'll try to repeat the same results with this one with the 357 Magnum. Times are fairly close. The recoil was stiff. It walloped my hand pretty darn good, but I got to tell you, not that bad. If you put the work in, you can make it work for you. You can actually get it to go. So I'm going to switch back real quick just to give you one more pass on this. Let's go ahead and try 38+P again. Now this next load is going to be 357 Magnum again. So let's try that one more time. Woo! Beats up the middle finger of your hand pretty good. Gun gets fairly hot. But like I say, I've worked with the 357 Magnum enough in the SP101 that it's workable for me. But it's something you're going to want to try. What I do not recommend is that you go out and shoot wad cutter standard pressure loads for the range and then load 357 Magnum and carry it on the street. That's how we used to do it back in the day when people weren't thinking as practically as they should have in the law enforcement industry. And we would literally shoot real pipsqueak loads. I mean, rounds that were moving so slow that on a sunny day, usually about 10:30 in the morning, if the light was just right, you could actually see the rounds transiting to target. They move that freaking slow. They would shoot those on the range, and then they give you a box of 125 grain 357 Magnum and call it a day. And never did we ever shoot combat courses with 357 Magnum. It didn't take long before people kind of wised up. But that's, like I say, that's how they did it back then. I don't recommend you do it now. If you are thinking about carrying 357 Magnum in your snub, get out to the range and shoot it. And shoot it, and shoot it fast. Shoot it as fast, and do the comparison. Load up a cylinder of 38, load up a cylinder of 357, and let her fly. See how it goes for you. So with that, I'll thank you for watching or listening. This is Scott, Respector Gear. Have a wonderful day.